So what is stress? Well, the dictionary definition of stress states that it's a mental or emotional strain resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. But what does that mean in the real world? Well, for many of us it means having too much work to do and too little time to do it in. It can also mean dealing with paying the bills and having financial pressures. But it can also mean going to work and dealing with difficult customers or even high pressure targets. So as you can see, stress can mean different things for different people. And it's not always caused by your work life or your relationships either. You see, we can experience things like physical stress too. And that means even things like exercise and going to the gym can cause a great deal of stress on the body. Now if you think about doing a marathon, for example, the amount of stress that this puts on the body is quite high. So in a nutshell, stress is subjective. It's a physical and it's a mental response. It's also an interaction between us and the environment around us, and quite often it's a state that arises from over-demand. It's when we have too much of something we haven't asked for. So when we talk about stress, most people will have heard about the fight or flight response. But what is it? Well, the fight or flight response is simply how our body gears up for immediate action whenever we sense danger or a threat. And in the face of that danger or threat, we either want to fight or run away. But where did it come from? Well, let's imagine we're back in the caveman era and we're rummaging around for some food or for some berries or some nuts, and you're minding your own business, and all of a sudden a saber-toothed tiger appears. What happens now? Well, we either decide to fight and kill it, or we run away very fast and hide and recover to live another day. Or perhaps you'll freeze. Well, either way, your body's going to kick into action to help you. And adrenaline will get dumped into the bloodstream for energy. The digestive system shuts down to help conserve energy. Blood gets pumped to your essential organs and muscles, and not to mention your heart rate and blood pressure will go sky high. Now, as you can imagine, this is great for when we're running away from a saber-toothed tiger. But that's not what most people's reality is today. What we're experiencing now, though, is actually quite worse. Because we've got our own versions of the saber-toothed tiger, but in smaller, more frequent doses. Which means that these same responses are still happening to our bodies. And the long-term impact of this constant stress can have some concerning consequences, such as depression, anxiety, heart attacks, stroke, cardiovascular diseases, and insomnia, just to name a few. So what we want to do is think about where stress is coming from in our lives, and then get you thinking of how you might be able to change that in the future. And we can do that by answering some simple questions. So number one, what are your top 3 stressors? And be specific. So for example, if work is a stress for you, well, what exactly about work is causing you the stress? Is it the amount of workload you have? Is it the amount of hours that you work? Or is it something else? But whatever it is, make sure that you get specific with it. And number 2, how many of those are in your control? For example, the weather, how other people live their lives, and what other people are doing on the weekends are out of your control. But the amount of workload you have and the expectations you put on yourself are in your control, and you have the power to change them. And number 3, what are your current strategies for dealing with this right now? Now, for example, do you exercise? Do you go for a walk? Do you meditate? Or do you drink excessively? Or perhaps do you just try and ignore this and brush it under the carpet?